Hello, in this video, you will learn how to identify the meaning of unknown words using the context of the sentences around them. This is one of our important skills for this semester, Standard RV 2.1, identifying the meaning of words using context. So, let's take a look at this sentence. If I were to ask you just to give us the meaning of the word garrulous, just looking at it, what do you think it might be? Just take a guess. Have your teacher pause this video and discuss how you would define this word by just looking at it. Now that you unpaused the video, you had a chance to discuss, you probably had a hard time knowing what to say. And that's because when you just look at a word, if you're not super familiar with like roots or origins of words, it's really hard to know what it means. But if I gave it to you in a sentence, unlike his quiet and low-key family, Brad is very garrulous. Now what do you think it means? Go ahead and pause this video to discuss with your class, and then when you're done, resume the video. Now that you had a chance to discuss, you guys probably talked about how Brad is very talkative or outgoing or loud compared to his family. And the reason you were able to do that is because of the content and the context of the sentence. We were able to see that Brad's family is quiet and low-key. But we have this clue here, unlike, meaning that Brad is the opposite. So the opposite of low-key and quiet is talkative and outgoing. So we want to make sure that we are reading and using context clues before we just head to our cell phones or our iPad. Those are good tools to use to look up words, but it doesn't really engage our brains and our critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills are when you're able to problem solve and think through maybe difficult information or situations. And that is a skill that your future employers or future colleges, whatever your plans are for after high school, those skills are very important. Your employers, no matter where you work, whether it be a bank or a office or a factory, they want you to be able to think critically because your employer cannot hold your hand through every situation. They want you to be able to problem solve and add to their company. So that's why we do exercises and use skills like this, because it works your brain and helps you develop those critical thinking skills. So even though you could just look up a definition on your phone or on your iPad, we want you to develop this skill, especially because maybe there might be a day where you don't have your phone or your iPad to do this. So when we are trying to determine the meaning of a word from the context or sentences around it or words around it, it's not just going in blind and trying to, figure it out on your own. There are specific clues and strategies that you can use to help you. So we're going to go through 4 different types of clues that you can look for in passages or sentences to determine the meaning of the word. So the first type of context clue would be using examples and definitions. This is where the author gives you either the definition in the sentence or like a summarized version of a definition, or they might give you an example of what they're trying to say. So let's look at this sentence here. Suzanne had many ailments, that's our unknown word, including a rash, allergies, and chronic headaches. So in this sentence, we have an examples of what ailments are. Rash, allergies, chronic headaches. Then you can use your previous knowledge to determine that these are illnesses that you have, but they're not super serious. So ailments must mean minor illnesses or small illnesses, something that's not a serious injury or illness. If I wanted to include a definition in this sentence, as an example, I might say something like, Suzanne had many ailments or minor illnesses as a child. So I have here the definition included. So examples and definitions are kind of in the same camp because it's renaming the word. It's including either an example or, again, the actual definition in the sentence. The next type of context clue is using a synonym. Now, a synonym is a word that means the same or almost the same as the unknown word. I always remember, it's easy to get this confused with antonym, but synonym equals same. That's how I remember it. Now, synonyms might not appear in the same sentence. They can appear later on in the passage, like if it's a big paragraph or a story. I see this a lot when authors are trying to describe a character. They'll use synonyms that mean like different traits. Like they'll say, Billy is honest. Billy always tells the truth. Billy is a very straightforward person. And they'll say that maybe different places in a passage. So we have like straightforward, honest, truth, all synonyms. So let's look at this example. My doctor said smoking could terminate my life, but I told him everybody's life has to end sometime. Now, there's different ways you can locate a synonym, because sometimes it's hard to determine what the synonym is if you don't know the meaning of the word. But one way you can do that is look for a word that has a similar part of speech. So terminate is a verb type, and it's referring to the word life. So we want to look for something else in the passage that is referring to life as a verb type, which would be to end. That's also a verb. So we know that end must be a synonym for terminate. So the word terminate means end. The next type is an antonym. An antonym is a word that means the opposite of another word. And we can really determine where antonyms are in a sentence, or if there is an antonym, because of signal phrases, like however, but, yet, on the other hand, in contrast, unlike, like our first example with Brad earlier in the video. And we can do the same thing as we did with synonyms to try to determine where the antonym is by looking at the part of speech and what words it is either referring to or describing, if it's an adjective or adverb. So let's look at this example. Many people have pointed out the harmful effects that cell phones in school have had, yet there are many salutary effects as well. Okay, so we know our word is salutary. It's an adjective. So it's describing the word effects. We also have the word effects up here. And it is being described by harmful. So we know these two words are connected, but are they synonyms or antonyms? And that's where we look for our signal phrase, yet. So we know they're antonyms. So harmful is the opposite of salutary. So that means salutary must be beneficial or helpful. Helpful is the opposite of harmful. And our last type of context clue is inferences. This is where you kind of have to put the pieces together. There's not a antonym, synonym, example, or definition listed. but the author has included background information. And like a detective, you have to put the little pieces together by thinking about, okay, what do I know about this? To kind of put those pieces together. So it takes a little bit more work, and it's possibly a little more time consuming, because you have to ask questions about the information that's given to you. So let's look at this example. An employee, irate over being fired, stormed out of the office, pushing everyone in his way. So we want to ask ourselves, well, how do people feel when they're fired? Mad, right? When someone is storming out of a room, what emotions are they having? Anger, usually, right? You don't really picture someone storming out of the room feeling happy as can be. You'd use a different word. And then pushing everyone in his way. Again, how must he be feeling if he's pushing people? Mad. So we know that irate must mean angry, because we ask questions and put together that background information about what we know about being fired, people storming out, pushing, what kind of emotions they have. So we were able to put those pieces together. So those are the 4 types of context clues. I hope that this helped clarify. I do have a Khan Academy video that I will attach for your teacher to show you as well if you need a little extra. And I hope you have learned a lot, and go ahead and work on the practice.